verse 718, the Rupa-skandha, or matter, and the Vijnana-skandha. There are these two skandhas and not 5. They are different names for the skandhas. Of this I have talked in 100 ways. If you study Buddhism, you'll probably have come across the skandhas, and you'll have learnt that there are 5, and perhaps you made an effort to memorize them. And you'll have read or been taught that the purpose of the skandhas is to debunk the notion or the understanding of the individual, to debunk the understanding of the soul. Because when we look at what is actually going on, we find these 5 skandhas. We don't find any soul. It's these 5 skandhas that are going on. So this is what you'll read or be taught. You'll get your head around it, and then you'll move on. You can tick off that you've learnt about the skandhas. And I've got a couple of videos myself on the skandhas. Video 13 is on the skandhas. But more importantly, there's a video 211, which is called The Practice of the Skandhas. In Buddhism, you'll find many of these lists. If you're not put off by this, you'll get stuck into it and learn these lists. If you've followed these videos, you'll know that the approach to these lists is quite different. These lists are actually a description of enlightenment practice itself. They're not a static categorization. And in fact, I think in previous verses we had more than 20 skandhas. The Buddha says here, of this I have talked in 100 ways. He's talked of the skandhas in 100 ways. The thing we have to be careful with here is being satisfied with the conceptual understanding. What is the point of this teaching? Well, as I said, the point is to remove the understanding or the belief in an individual. Well, has it worked? If you've read the skandhas, if you've read about the skandhas, are you now appreciating egolessness? Are you now realizing egolessness? And if not, then you haven't really appreciated the teaching of the skandhas. So it might be worth having a look at these 2 videos that I mentioned. That was video 13 and video 211. Because in a way, what this verse is about is the culmination of the skandhas as a practice. We're told here that there are just 2 skandhas. So it's important here not to get fixated. If you're thinking, yes, but the teaching is 5 skandhas, this is the canonical understanding. This is what Buddhism teaches. There are 5 skandhas. But this teaching isn't any good unless you are realizing egolessness. You're realizing insubstantiality, anatta. So let's look into this. Let's look into this and see if we can come back to a realization of egolessness. Because what's happening in this verse, only 2 skandhas are being mentioned, Rupa and Vijnana. And Vijnana is normally understood as consciousness. But I'm going to take Vijnana here as awareness. awareness. But let's look at the skandhas that are being missed out. The three skandhas which normally make up the five are perception, feeling, and our psychological conditioning, if we can call it that, samskara. So the three that are missing actually relate to the individual: feeling, perception, and psychological disposition. So these have been removed. And when you're practicing, this is what you have to do. You go beyond notions of perception. Feelings are going on, and these feelings feed into psychological conditioning, which incline you to perceive the world in a particular way. In enlightenment practice, we step back from all that. We step back from all that until there is simply what is going on. And this is what's meant by Rupa. There's something going on. So it's matter in the biggest sense. Rupa can also mean appearance. Rupa is what is going on. It's what normally attracts the attention in keeping with discriminations which are fueled by our psychological disposition, fueled by feelings, notions of perception, and the samskara. So in practice we step back from that. So there's just stuff going on. But there's one other factor. This is the factor of awareness. There's not simply stuff going on, there's awareness going on. And it's not that I am aware. There's simply awareness. There's simply stuff going on. We don't need to bring a me into the picture. We don't need to ask who is experiencing this, because this is taking us away from immediate experiencing. It's taking us away from the immediate experiencing. So we can talk about the immediate experiencing as long as we don't bring in notions of an experiencer and something that's being experienced. There's simply experiencing. This is Rupa, awareness of Rupa. So these are the two skandhas which constitute successful enlightenment practice. I've actually just answered what has been a bit of a conundrum for myself for quite a while. How can there actually be two things going on? How can there actually be appearances and awareness of appearances? And we can actually switch between these two approaches. Often when I talk about awareness, I use this in conjunction with abiding in a sense of being, or simply suchness. But there's still all this stuff going on. There's still all this stuff going on. The world is what we call the world, or just Rupa, is still going on. So there seems to be a kind of flipping about. There's still a little bit of toing and froing between here and there. And they're actually two parts of the same coin. It's the coin of experiencing. And if we remember that awareness disappears for whatever it's aware of. So in a way, there is simply Rupa. There's only one Skandha. But then we come back to what we can call the presence of Rupa. It's actually infused with awareness. But we mustn't get into thinking about it too much. We mustn't get into conceptualizing it too much. Let's come back to it. Come back to being, come back to awareness. And Rupa, rather than diverting the attention into aspects of it, reflects back into awareness. Reflects back into being. So it's actually a dynamic. Rupa Vijnana is a dynamic. They reflect into each other. Rupa is the world as presence. Vijnana is suchness. Awareness. And it's also presence itself. So perhaps presence could also, presence with a capital P, along with experiencing, are different descriptions of the coin, of which Rupa and Vijnana are the two sides of. So in this practice, in this realization, there is no ego, no self, no world as it's conventionally understood. There is no perception, no psychology. We are beyond moods and sensibilities at this point. We are liberated in pure being.